Hi, Rand. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Hi, Alicia. It's so nice to be with you. Great day.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And thank you for coming. That means a whole lot. Okay, Rand, I am so excited to have you on the show for couple of reasons, okay? And firstly is because I believe that knowledge is the solution to world's problem. And secondly, I firmly believe that there are some things that Rand knows that some of my audience needs to hear this stuff directly from your mouth in order to experience transformation. I firmly believe that. And thirdly, even I myself, I believe that I am definitely going to learn one or two things from Rand's story, your insight, your experiences. I'm so sure of that. Okay, so for that reason, Rand, I want us to get started with your story, your introduction, then your journey so far, the challenges that you faced and how you overcame these stuffs. Then afterwards, I've got some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Rand, over to you.
Well, great. Well, I feel very fortunate. I've worked very hard in my life. I grew up in a middle class family, and I have two parents who are very committed to service. And I learned that early on. In high school, I became an excellent student, and that principle of excellence has carried through in everything I've done in my life since then, whether it's in relationships or uh, client assignments that I've taken on. Excellence is very key element. And I've also realized, maybe in my late 20s, that being a voice of encouragement and helping other people, mentoring them, just being available, even in an informal way, is very important. Having purpose, again, very fortunately, I've had a clear sense of purpose throughout my life since high school, and I've revised it a few times along the way as I've changed, as what I'm doing in the world has changed. But purpose all the way to the end. I keep telling people, just because you think you've retired, which is, I think, a terrible word, we should change it to rewired, and keep going. You need to have purpose. And then the last thing that I've brought in, it's really kind of almost a ladder, is living life as love and being kind and respectful and listening hard to people and asking them questions and doing acts of loving kindness.
Beautiful, Rand. I admire your philosophies and your mentality. It's a beautiful one and it is encouraging and inspiring and helpful. So thank you for sharing that with us, Rand. Okay, so shall we get started with the questions?
Please.
Okay, so let's say someone asks you, "Hey, Rand, how can I be the author of my own story? I mean, designing my life." What would your response be?
Well, there's a number of really important elements to making that happen. I think it starts with knowing yourself. A lot of people don't take the time to really evaluate who they are, what they stand for, what mistakes they've made, what works for them, what does not work for them, what kind of skills they have. There's a whole group of things that really build on a sense of self, and from that you can say, I need to work on this. I'm not as strong in this arena as I would like to be, as it would be helpful for me to be, so I need to work on that. And in the areas I'm strong, I want to share those strengths, and be available in those areas of strength when I can, and when I'm called upon to do that. So it starts, I think, with a self-knowledge and then a self-belief. It comes, I think, very quickly after that, when you realize that you have a lot of good qualities in yourself. And then is the sort of the courage, the willingness to take some risks that say, okay, I am going to swim against the tide. The normal course would be for me to do this next or to go do that. But instead, you say, for me, even though the society I live in or the family I grew up in, or maybe even friends say, do this, I believe I've thought about it a lot. I've checked myself, I've checked my heart, my soul, and I want to do this instead. And I know it's an experiment. I know it might not work, but I want to try and I want to give it my best shot. So this is the designing your life quality, but it builds on these elements. You can't just sort of say, well, snap my finger. Here, I'm going to design a life. I mean, assuming you want to design a life that's going to be
Mhm.
successful and satisfying.
Hmm. Hmm. I get that. That was a great answer, and that was quite easy to understand. That's good. I love that. Okay, we still have some questions here. So, on your own terms, Rand, can you define success?
That's a beautiful question, and it's a really important question. So much of the world, around the world now, is defining success very narrowly. They're defining success in sort of a financial way. And financial success is, of course, an important ingredient in the overall life success. But if that's your focus, your sole focus, I don't think you're successful. I will just tell it as I see it. You're not successful. Why? Because what's happening around you in terms of your relationships? Do you have strong and deep and enduring relationships? I have met many people in my life who are very wealthy, and their surroundings are littered with failed relationships, whether it's divorce or partners that they can't work with or left working with them. This is not success. So you have to have strong relationships. It starts, as you were talking about a minute ago, with a strong relationship with yourself. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And so then relationships with others. Do you have to take care of yourself physically and emotionally and mentally? That's success too. If your wealth leads you to be swallowing a bowling ball and you can't get out of your chair, that's a recipe for more problems. So that's not success. Being aging and aging well is about vitality. It's not about longevity. So there's a whole myriad of things. I think it's really important to be spiritual. If you're religious as well, that's fine. It can work for you, but it's, I think, very important to, in terms of being successful, to be spiritual. And by that, what I mean is two things in particular. One is to be in awe, to be in awe of the world we live in. Whether it's you go outside and you see a little bug, a caterpillar, a butterfly, a little something, a flower, and you say, wow, this is amazing. This is, Mother Nature has been around for millions of years creating these things, much longer than the human race. And the other thing then is to be humble. You're just a little tiny grain of sand on planet Earth. And when we think about the universe, you're invisible. You're just so insignificant. Being in awe and being having humility are hugely important. Becoming a better person, evolving, and being successful, I
Oh man. Beautiful. This is
think.
actually the very first time I'll be listening to someone define success like this. Oh man, I love that. I love that. That's really
Thank
helpful. That's really helpful. Okay, what about the word enough? What does that truly mean? Can you talk to
you.
us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It just follows on very very much in this question of success and whether you're just focusing on financial matters and material things. I'm going to be doing a talk, in-person talk this afternoon, and one of the things I'm going to be talking to my audience about is what kind of pirate do you want to be? Do you want to treasure your possessions, or do you want to treasure your relationships? These are choices. We have enormous power in our lives to make these kinds of choices. So enoughness has to do not with an external focus where you look around and you say, oh, look at that person, look at that car they're driving, look at what they're doing, the house they live in, or the clothes, the watch, or something that they've adorned their lives with. That's an external focus, and there's no end to that. There's never an end to the possibility of getting more stuff. So that's not the answer, because it's an unending and maybe very frustrating, painful thing. Instead, the thing to do is to look inside and say to yourself, who am I? What's important to me? And then you can much more readily calibrate. I don't need that. I don't want that. That's just more distraction, more clutter. No, no, no. What's important for me is to have a way to get from where I live to where I work conveniently, like a utility that has no problems. I don't care if it's fancy. It could have a scratch on it. My bicycle, my motorcycle, my car, whatever, it's okay. That's not what's important to me. What's important to me is being surrounded by things that give me joy, that allow me to evolve as a person, that make me smile and make me alive.
Beautiful, beautiful. I got that too. Okay, so let's say someone asks you, hey Rand, do I have the power to make choices in all aspects of my life? What would your response be to such question?
Well, I do believe, in fact, it is the central theme of my book, Thriving, How to Create a Healthier, Happier, and More Prosperous Life. And that is that we have enormous power to get on the road to thriving by making choices. And these are choices about how we spend our time, who we
Hmm,
spend our time with, what habits we have, and even our feelings. And some of these are not easy habits. There's been a lot of books written over the last many years about
yes,
habits, how to get rid of bad habits, how to create new habits. So this is not, I don't mean in any way to say this is simple and you can just do it easily, but if you focus on it, and you say, here I am at this point, at this moment in time, and I'm going to make a choice. Am I going to be afraid? Am I going to be pessimistic? Am I going to be cynical? Or am I going to be positive? Am I going to help other people? Am I going to come forward with energy and cheerfulness? These are choices.
beautiful. Okay, you mentioned thrive. So how can a person thrive, and what are the aspect to it?
Well, I lay out my book in four sections. The
Okay.
first section is thriving personally, and that is actually half the book because it is
Hmm,
so foundational. If you're not thriving personally, it's hard to go to these other dimensions of thriving. The second dimension, though, is thriving with others. And the third dimension is thriving out in the world by being a certain kind of person, whether that's being charitable or being helpful to other people, maybe being philanthropic, being of service, whether that's in a formal capacity, sitting on some advisory, helping somebody that way, or just in your neighborhood, people maybe somebody's that a friend is not well and needs some help. Are you going to be there? So serving, being out in the world. And then the fourth dimension of this is very important, is to continue to thrive as you move forward in life. And a lot of people I've watched, I've met so many people in my life who plateau. They kind of stop. Maybe because their focus was only about money and they made enough money or something. But to continue to evolve, to grow, to be that better person, it never ends. I mean, I'm every year saying to myself, this is my new target. I need to listen better. That one reappears from time to time as a real high priority for me. So whatever it is, you gain wisdom as you go through life, And it's a question of accumulating that wisdom and then make what wisdom basically boils down to is making good choices.
Beautiful, beautiful. Your book seems like a very powerful resource to help people get to thrive and make good choices. So my question is, what inspired you to, write the book?
Well, thank you for that question, Alicia. Since high school, I have been a very diligent, disciplined person, and I would read a book. And I'd say, "Wow, this is a great book." I'd take some notes, and I'd keep the notes. I would copy articles that I thought were particularly interesting, and I'd collect really great quotes. So dial forward many decades later, and I had this 4 foot high stack of papers. And I said, I know there's at least one book inside of that, and I know there's at least one book inside of me. And so 4 years ago, I sat down and I finally got around to chunking this 4 foot stack into files, which ultimately became the chapters of my book. And I thought initially that I would write this book as a kind of my philosophy of life and share it with family and dear friends. And then I made a great decision to share this book, an early manuscript, with 3 good friends who knew me well. Several had written books, and get their feedback. And they said, no, Rand, this book cannot be a little private book that you share with, a few dozen people. It has to be out in the world. It is so important, so powerful. So I got underway with that, and I've gotten enormous feedback. The book is helping a lot of people. There's no question about it, and I'm very committed to being a voice for the possibilities that we've been talking about today, Alicia.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. I love that. Okay, Rand, it has been an interesting moment with you on the show. Your insight, your, valuable informations that you've been dishing out. It's powerful, truly. So to bring this to a close, Rand, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those ones who would like to reach out to you, get your book, learn more about what you do, how can that be possible?
Well, there are many things about my book. I really hope that your listeners will pick up a copy of this book. It's available at Amazon and independent bookstores, and I hope that would happen. I am later this summer hopefully going to have an audio book, which I know some people prefer to read a book by listening rather than reading, but that's not available just yet. Maybe later this summer. I would say as a sort of a closing note that life is full of endings and beginnings, and of course, in between are transitions. And there's a way to get through that is less painful, that is more likely to create good solid footing along the way, so that you realize what you're leaving behind. You take with you forward the things that are going to will be helpful based on the last experience you had, the last thing you're leaving, and then you have good tools. You reject the tools that were not helpful, all kinds of things, but then you have the new set of tools that you look forward with a very positive outlook. I think being relentlessly positive, like I am, is hugely important. Studies have shown that being positive adds 8 to 9 years to your life. That's important.
Beautiful. That was a great one. I love it. So that's gonna be the end of the show, Rand. Okay, before we round up, to get your book, okay, it is available on Amazon. What about social media handles and all of that?
Yeah, thank you.
LinkedIn, Instagram.
So you can read more about the book by going to my book website, which is at randselig.com, RANDSELIG.com. lig.com. There's a lot of good things there, testimonials. You can download a PDF of some of my favorite quotes from the book. The book has lots and lots of just great quotes that are my readers tell me are and well located in the book to accentuate a point. There are other podcasts that people can listen to. I'll add this one when it's available, Alicia. And so that's one thing. And of course, I'm available on LinkedIn as well. That's my primary social media.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So that's going to be the end of the show. Thank you for coming and thank you for, impacting me and the audience soon with this invaluable information insight. It is really amazing. Thank you so very much, man.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me as a guest.